Welcome, everyone, to the Wizard of Radical Self-Respect. My name's Jared Mello, and I'm the Shepherd of Black Sheep. Today, I'm going to go over several videos on how to pick up on a narcissist's body language. And we're going to go over first a video by the body language expert, a new friend of the channel, maybe, Jesus, and he goes over a video that Derek Jackson did after he was, I guess we'll say, exposed for cheating on his girlfriend or wife, and we'll go over that video. Then Dr. G has a video about narcissists and their body language. And then Professor Sam Vaknin has a couple videos about a narcissist and a psychopath's body language, and we'll go over all of those too. Now, also to note, there really wasn't any new updates on the Nick Reiner case today, so we're not really going to do much with that because there's not much going on with it today. And I'm going to look for other cases to go over as well. Ram's horn, what's shaking over there? Oh, it's Mac. Change the name. I got to keep up with all the name changes. A lot of people change their names. So Sable used to be Cat, for example. And there's been other people that changed their names. I like it, though. As long as you're still here. That's the important part. But today, yeah, this will be interesting to hear the, see? Cat's ears were ringing, and I said Sable used to be Cat, and here she is. Sable en blonde. Sable en blonde reminds me of Sauvignon Blanc. But we're going to go over the body language of a narcissist here. Admittedly, I'm not as familiar with the body language clues. I'm better at the vibes. I'm better at detecting them from looking at their face, but not necessarily the body language cues. So we'll see. Rhodes, Happy New Year to you. I haven't seen you here for a minute. This one's to stick for a while. It's for my new musical direction. Okay. I like it. I like it. Woman like that. I like it like that. Welcome. Welcome. The first stream of the new year, although technically last night counted as the first stream of the new year too, even though it was maybe only an hour of the new year, but we were here. And today's video is more of an experiment today too, because talking about narcissist body language, I've been talking a lot about current events and cases, so we'll see how this video does. Maybe, again, we'll have to see. We will have to see about how it does and other kinds of cases that are out there. I know Brian Etten, he did a year in review. That's interesting. Tony Bruschi, he did another year in review. Maybe we'll go over those videos tomorrow. Ellie, welcome. Sarah, welcome. Yeah, let's pop on this video here. Jesus, I like this guy's accent. It's very welcoming and warming. There you go, Ellie. 2 firsts of the new year is right.
Hello and welcome back, my body language buddies. Today, in episode 26, the big question is it possible to tell if your partner is a master manipulator just by their body language? And to solve this riddle, we will be looking at Derek Jackson's apology, a relationship guru with more than 1 million followers on Instagram who preaches healing and healthy relationships, and who confessed to having multiple affairs after fans uncovered his indiscretions. Now, if this is your first time here, my channel is all about body language and persuasion.
And look at that. His friends backstab him there and there too. But they expose the truth for what it is. And he's one of these guys that would basically just pander to women, for lack of a better word. But here's the thing. What you see on the surface is not always accurate. What's behind closed doors could be a completely different story. You just don't know. And that goes for all, in particular, the guys that directly pander to women exclusively. Something about them rubs me the wrong way. I just don't like it. It's not to say they're all wrong about everything they say, but just the blatant pandering to it, I've never been a fan of.
You can ask any questions or suggest any analysis in the comments. And if you're coming back, thank you for sharing this body language adventure with me. As always, the best way to support my channel is to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss any of my body language analysis and tips. Before we start, remember that I've got a really nice compilation of 100 body language tips in a very convenient free PDF that you can download in the link right in the description. In this video, you will learn the right way to read a couple's body language, what's the meaning behind an emotionless face, and how to tell if a loved one is being emotionally manipulated. I suggest that you stay until the end because I'll be also sharing one bonus tip about how to identify emotional manipulation in social media posts. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the body language guy, and I want you to uncover the secrets that people try to hide from you. Online gossip about Jackson's affairs began appearing in early March. This week, Candice de Medeiros claimed to have had an affair with Jackson after he allegedly told her that he and his wife were separated. De Medeiros claimed that she and Jackson texted through the summer of 2020, spent his birthday together, and slept in the bed that he shares with his wife, Denea Jackson, who also appears in the video. Fans have been addressing the possibility that Jackson has been manipulating his wife, especially after watching this apology video.
But now that it's been made so public, it's important that I first off let you guys know I do not stand by those actions. I don't want to encourage anybody to do that.
Now, it's absolute fact that the first thing you're going to see are the faces. We're pre-programmed to look at faces and spot emotions and micro-expressions to communicate faster than words. One of the best tips that I can give you for any body language analysis is to pay attention to the very first or very last frames of a video. That way you can spot those moments where people think that they're not being seen or if they are faking emotions. They have...
That's a good tip there. So the first or the very last frame of a video, that's when it's most likely their guard will be down. Interesting. I like that suggestion. I think that's good.
Haven't put their mask on yet. When it happens at the end of a video, they think that they can get the mask out already, and you can catch a glimpse of their true emotions.
What's going on, guys? Derek Jackson. What's going on, guys? Derek Jackson.
In this case, you can see both his face right at the start of the video, in the first couple frames, and then his face throughout the rest of the apology. Notice that there is a strong difference in expression between them. The first one is emotionless, and the second one wants to convey sadness. But for Denea, this is a moment where one might...
She does not look too pleased, and it doesn't really take a body language expert to figure that out.
Want to show their best self and to show that they are a strong marriage, and they have survived the cheating and they're ready to push through it. But at first sight, her eyes look empty with a total lack of energy and just a tinge of anger. Some people have mentioned the bonnet that she's wearing, and that could mean that she just didn't bother to do her hair that morning. And that's just fine. But the problem is when you start to stack signals one after another, because wearing a bonnet or any kind of hat in this situation is a way to feel protected, that you feel vulnerable and defensive. The black sweater that she's wearing is something that she has worn in the past, but the color projects being adamant and not open to any suggestions, like she's trying to defend her own decisions.
And again, this has got to be an embarrassing video for her, right? So you're with Derek Jackson and it's exposed that he's cheating on you. Of course, you're not going to be thrilled with that. Of course, it's an embarrassing situation. So some of this facial expression is absolutely understandable. Now, what I would say to her, though, is too, you got to be really honest with yourself. Do you truly forgive? Do you truly forgive this? Because if you don't, you're going to be nursing a resentment, and that resentment's going to come out down the line later. It's just a matter of when. And hey, there's no shame in not forgiving it, by the way. If you're not cool with it, you're not cool with it.
And her husbands. By the way, Jackson chose a purple sweater, being purple a color that usually symbolizes wisdom and loyalty. You know that he picked it on purpose. Notice that even if his arm is bigger and longer than hers, he keeps it behind her arm, making a very uncomfortable position for her. It's like he's hiding behind so as not to be exposed to the public.
And today I am joined by my lovely wife, Danae.
Did you spot that? When he says, my lovely wife, he caresses his own finger. This is really odd, because even if it's normal that when someone feels anxious, they fiddle with their fingers, in this case, he has his wife's hands in his. So it would make sense to do that fiddling or that micro-touching on her fingers. But instead, he touches himself.
And what do you think that means out there? To me, it means he's the one that's like anxious or feels nervous, and he's trying to console himself. More worried about himself, maybe, than her feelings. That's what I would pick up on that. But what do you think, Chet?
Lovely wife, Danae. And we just wanted to address a couple of things.
As he announces Danae, she does a close smile with no energy whatsoever. Looks at him, and as she pulls her eyes away from him, she presses her lips. That is a sign of frustration and possible hidden anger. Right after that, she tilts her head in the opposite direction, away from him. She tries to keep a smile, but you don't need to be a body language analyst to read the wariness of her expression.
And we just wanted to address a couple of things.
He says that he just wants to address a couple things, but at the same time, he says no with his head. So that's a body language contradiction that points that he really did not want to address this.
You know, we understand that some of you may have already heard, maybe not.
In fact, almost right after that, he lowers his gaze. That is a common sign of shame, followed by a very quick smirk when he says that some of the audience could have heard about what's going on. Now, the eyes down in shame and the smirk are two very different facial expressions with vastly different meanings. When you spot these subtle clues, you have a hint that there's an emotional contradiction inside. Sometimes when a cheater is caught, they could express both shame because they were caught, but at the same time pride because they did what they did. But what kind of personality is capable of showing pride when they are exposed to the public? That's right, narcissists. The narcissistic manipulator enjoys both the process of not being caught and, to some extent, being proud when caught. So that's a body language clue that tells us that Derek Jackson could be a narcissist.
But, you know, a lot has been said already about what was the cause and all that other stuff. Some of it is true. Some of it is completely false. Some of it is true. Some of it is completely false.
Right after he says completely false, he presses his lips, which is a clue of frustration or covert anger. He shows that he's angry at false claims about what has happened.
But the truth is, and I'm saying it here now, is that Derek Jackson was involved with other women. Derek Jackson was involved with other women.
Derek Jackson was involved with other women, talking in the third person. Interesting.
There's a lot to discuss about these clips, but there's one thing that is particularly interesting. Derek's repeated use of the third person when discussing his own actions. This might seem like a quirk, but it's really common. Some of these fans commented their own experience with cheating partners as they spoke about themselves in the third person, claiming that this is a red flag. Well, think about this. When admitting to an affair, people will sometimes use the third person as a way to detach themselves from the transgression. People who refer to themselves in the third person do so because they don't want to take responsibility for what they are saying.
Interesting. I can see that being the case. I can see it as a way to detach and distance themselves from what they're trying to take accountability for. I can see that.
Simply won't admit or say, yes, I made a mistake. He's attempting to separate himself from his misbehavior. Instead of owning it by using the word I, he talks like he was a character and he's telling a story. It's common to combine these statements with sentences like, that isn't who I am, or I'm a different person now, I've changed.
Outside the marriage. And by involved, I want to be clear, I'm not talking about just casually kicking it, maybe a lunch or something like that. I'm talking about casually kicking it, maybe a lunch or something like that. I'm talking about.
Notice
Displeased for sure. Shaking her head, disappointed. Understandable, though, considering the circumstances.
that when he's about to say what he actually did with those women, she lowers her gaze slowly. She feels ashamed at that point. She hasn't overcome that episode yet. Let's see if you can spot Jackson's microexpression in the next clip.
I've already told her literally everything. I've given her basically a roll call list. If I've said hello to a woman in the last 12 years of me knowing her, she knows about it. A roll call list. If I've said hello to a woman in the last 12 years of me knowing her, she knows about it.
And here's an aside here before he breaks this down. I mean, if you want to get with other people, you got to at least be honest, I would think, with your partner, right? Especially in this day and age, there's tons of open relationships, ENM relationships, poly relationships. If that's what you want, keep it real. Keep it real and say what you want. And there'll be people out there that probably would be okay with it. But instead, you lie and you portray. Now that does a lot of harm. And it just makes it doubly worse considering what Derek Jackson talks about online. It would be like if Chris Perry gets caught cheating at a point. He's the other guy. He's like, Chris Perry is like the white Derek Jackson. But it'd be like that. It'd be like that happening. And it's just an insult to injury, we'll say. It's like a kick in the teeth. And it seems like a double betrayal because of that.
Yes, he's remembering because his eyes drifted to his left, his memory side. But at the same time, he had a micro-expression of duping delight. He tries to appear concerned and sad, but just for a fraction of a second, his true feelings show before going back to emotional control.
Duper's delight, he said. For those who don't know, Duper's delight is when a narcissistic person, or anyone for that matter, they can get enjoyment and satisfaction from getting away with something. Maybe they've done something devious, or they've gotten away with a lie, or they've belittled someone and put them down, and they enjoy seeing other people maybe uncomfortable or embarrassed, or they like getting away with things. That's called Duper's delight. And sometimes the body language betrays what they're really thinking and feeling.
And now we're finally getting on to the other side.
Notice that when Jackson says that they're finally getting on to the other side, he touches his own finger again and she averts her eyes away.
Break on through to the other side, they say.
They are absolutely not getting through it. He's nervous. He doesn't believe what he is saying, and she notices it and feels ashamed. Now let's listen to 2 clips of Danae and let's see if you can spot a difference.
So I do want to just add that I agree with what he just said. There is no justification for bringing other women into our marriage on any level.
Certain aspects of this type of situation, but that does not define who you are. You don't have to stay in bondage to that. You don't have to stay with bitter roots.
Yeah, she sounds far more confident when speaking alone. Her words are better connected, better voice tone, and a totally different attitude. That tells you that she didn't want to be there when Jackson was doing his apology. Now, watch her eye movements on this clip.
And when I've been flooded again with messages and these things and about, I need to leave or why haven't I left? And the answer is, when I found out about it, I left. I did not hesitate or waste time to do so. When I found out about it, I left. I did not hesitate or waste time to do so.
Look how interesting is that when she says that she found out about Jackson's infidelity and she left, her eyes drift to her left side. Remember that the left side is our memory or recalling side, and our right side is the creative one. In this case, she's talking about a memory, and her eyes drift to the corresponding memory side. That's
So again, it's weird when you say left and right, because when you're looking at someone, like, it looks like she's looking to the right, but it's her left. The left is the memory making side. The right, or excuse me, did I say that right? Let's rewind here to get this correct.
to her left side. Remember that the left side is our memory or recalling side, and our right side is the creative one. In this case, she's talking about a memory, and her eyes drift to the corresponding memory side. That's when your words and your body language, in this case, your facial expressions, are in sync. So we can assume that what she just said is the truth. Also, she shows a microexpression of surprise, which is another clue that upon recalling that situation, she was actually taken by surprise. She recalls it, and the feeling is still fresh in her memory, so she repeats the corresponding emotion. This is similar when someone recalls a sad moment of their lives and they show a microexpression of sadness. That tells you that emotion is still fresh or the emotional wound hasn't healed. And they still manifest it when talking about the subject. So that's why it's so important to pay attention when someone says that they are okay and have already overcome the experience, but they show traces that the topic still affects them. If you spot these signals, you know that you should show extra empathy for them. You're not expecting that people will tell you how they actually feel, and you don't need to, because you already read their body language. So you just show them your support.
And for those who are going to continue to support, man, I appreciate you like never before, because I know it's not going to be easy going forward, at least for a little while so many things are still fresh and attached to my name.
When he talks about his supporters, how worried he is about going forward, he mentions so many things fresh and still attached to his name. An apology should never be about what are the consequences for you. You are talking to take full responsibility about something that you did. And still, here he is absolutely concerned about how his name was tarnished by this. He is really concerned about it because that's when he displays many emotional reaction signals. 2 single shoulder shrugs, rapid blinking, he even closes his eyes for half a second. When you watch an entire clip or are interviewing someone or you are just having a casual conversation, you should make a continuous assessment of all these emotional markers. That way.
So for the people coming in late, this is Derek Jackson. What he does is he has a business where he helps women in regards to toxic relationships, and he tries to empower them, help them to see abusive and narcissistic guys, etc. But the bombshell was he got caught cheating on his wife here after he's the one pandering to the women, telling them how much they deserve, and you don't deserve the guy that cheats on you. And so basically it shows he's a hypocrite. So here he is doing a video with his wife, kind of an apology video. And this guy, the body language guy, is breaking down the body language of each of them in the video, which I think is pretty interesting. I admittedly don't know as much about the body language of narcissists. I'm good with just reading people's faces, and I'm good at reading the energies, but the specific body language cues, that's not my forte. But that's the update of what this is.
You'll be able to spot in real time the point in the conversation when the person has a stronger emotional reaction. In this case is when he's talking about his reputation and his name. That's when you understand that is the most important topic for him, because in trying to get his point across, he's nervous and projects low confidence. Remember that the more important a topic is for one person, it's most likely that they will be nervous when they talk about it. And I've got a bonus tip for you. If you know that talking about a certain topic is going to make you feel nervous and you don't want people to find out, the most important thing to prepare beforehand is visualizing yourself. How would you like to talk and feel about that topic? Make sure you visualize yourself with all details. How would you stand or sit? How would you project your voice? How people would look at you and nod with you? And how would you feel at that exact moment? That's the best way to train your brain into priming yourself to talk confidently about a topic that upsets you. Jackson later issued a very weird reaction to his own video where he talks about himself in the third person again. And the part that really caught my attention was this one.
So with that, cool. She wants to stand by her husband. She feels like he's worth it. She has that right. Now, so with that, cool. She wants to stand by her husband. She feels like he's worth it. She has that right. Now, as far as
when speaking for his wife and saying that, after all, she stands by him, or he in third person, whatever, she stands by him, that he's worth it. Notice how he denies with his head, does a single shoulder shrug, which is a classic emotional reaction when you're not sure about what you're talking about, and blinks rapidly. These are all signs that he's trying to convince us of something he's not sure himself. But look the change of his attitude when he's going to talk about his own performance.
Now, as far as what he said, I understand and I completely applaud him taking accountability.
He's not only applauding himself for taking accountability. When he says that, he projects his chin up, signaling that he's extremely proud of himself. That's an arrogant signal. Yeah, definitely, he's a narcissist. And do you know what does a narcissist love? Talk about themselves and not in third person. So I knew that at some point he was going to blow the whole that guy thing. And of course, he blew it, and he said this.
But I've seen a lot of women put this dude on the pedestal to the point of idealizing him and even comparing their man to him. But I've seen a lot of women put this dude on the pedestal. I've seen a lot of women.
Yeah, he's so excited about the idea of women putting him on a pedestal and even comparing their men to him, that he breaks that third person nonsense and finally talks about himself. Another narcissistic clue. Now,
so he's basically giving himself some admiration there, patting himself on the back, comparing themselves to him, comparing their guys to him. And he's also an example of like covert narcissistic tactics where clearly he's very outgoing, maybe even grandiose, but like the narcissistic traits more covert with him, I would say. So he's an example of someone that can be outgoing, but the narcissistic part is more covert and hidden, which makes it more difficult to detect. But somehow they did detect some of it because somehow he was caught cheating. Maybe his friends turned him in. I don't know exactly how it happened, but he got caught somehow. And he's, I guess to his credit, owning up to it.
here's the point I wanted to make about Danae's social media posts. In this text, you can find clues about she being suffering covert manipulation. The first one is, before the public at large become a part of my life, I had low confidence and high insecurities. Childhood experiences created a root of bitterness, rejection, which fed the spirits of can give love and can receive love. The fact is, women without a sense of self-worth are easy to manipulate. And if she felt like that before becoming a public personality, being in the spotlight only worsens that condition, because you're going to feel like you're being watched and judged all the time, which is the price that you have to pay. Emotionally unstable people cannot deal with this on their own and can easily fall prey of master manipulators that could even be their own partners. Now, how does she express of herself and her marriage? Fast forward to being wife. Take notice of the word wife between quotation marks, and if it's not quite a real wife or she doesn't deserve the title, it's still self-deprecating. Being wife of a sensational, electrifying, charming, first-class creatively, master orator, and superb genetic specimen of a man.
And here's the other question. So if his quote unquote friends ratted him out, what do you think it was? Do you think those friends were covertly envious of Derek Jackson and kind of wanted to tear him down a peg? Or do you think they were truly doing it out of a good sense of morality and they really wanted to help out her because she's the wife getting cheated on? What do you think it was? Covert envy, trying to do the right thing, or a combination of both?
That is putting him on a pedestal. It's exactly like projecting her marriage like she doesn't deserve him. And that's usually what happens when one of the spouses has low self-esteem. They could feel that they don't deserve the amazing partner they have, and this can lead to a very aggressive bouts of anxiety. And that anxiety shows through her obsession with his activities regarding other women. I visited women's pages that he liked, commented back to, and had prior flings with, and obsessed over how they did their hair, how they dressed, how they spoke, the interest they had, and tried to mimic the aspects of them to keep his attention. Did you notice something odd in the verb tenses? I visit women's pages, try to mimic them, obsess. All of them are in the present tense. And the way she writes, she minds the way she uses verbs and past and present tense. So this is a slip of the mind right there in her text that she still feels insecure and keeps doing these things. There are more texts and social media posts where it's sad to see Danae herself uplifting her husband and demeaning herself. Her husband cheated on her for over a decade. He cheated while she was pregnant. He brought other...
As far as body language goes, not doing too many body language cues in this video, by the way. Not that many, at least.
Women into their marriage and their marriage bed. And then she goes on a rant pointing out every one of her flaws, studying the videos and pictures of his mistresses, telling herself over and over again that because she doesn't dare to do what they do, she doesn't deserve all the love from her husband. She is not okay. And she's being used, and her body language shows it. That's why he even had to justify that her body expression is just the way her demeanor is.
Now, upon first impression, nothing really stuck out to me about him, but more so about the wife. Like, I heard her say that she stands with her husband, she's proud to love him, but just by her body language, I was really wondering, like, did he force her to do this video? Like, she looks super uncomfortable, like she doesn't want to be there. You know, I kind of caught that this is just a part of her personality, so that kind of explains somewhat of her demeanor. You know, she clearly has a mind of her own if you saw the live chat too.
If Jackson needs to make a video to explain his way out of cheating, why does Danae have to suffer through it? She has to go along this man who dragged her into this video to save his Instagram clout. It's not her mess, it's his. He should have been in that video by himself, but he didn't. You can tell that a spouse is genuinely committed.
Incorrect. He wanted her in there, I think, to help the image, to make it look like there's a unified front. But that's something I wouldn't want to do. I wouldn't want to put her in that position unless she absolutely wanted to. Other than that, he's right. Like, you should just own it on your own. Don't drag her into it to try to make it seem like to do more image control, image management, right? That's what it is, image management.
To improving after cheating if they show true remorse and are able to get to the bottom of why they cheated in the first place, so that the underlying issues can be resolved. Affairs are a symptom of bigger marital issues, and unless they're addressed, most probably another affair could happen again. Being willing to acknowledge wrongdoing and explore the reasons behind it can be a reassuring sign. If they are shutting you down or want to just move on without getting into what actually happened, that's foul play. The person who is genuinely committed to improving after cheating will behave in the opposite way to a narcissist. They will be concerned about how you feel, consistently attentive to your sensitivity, and committed to fix things over time. One more thing.
I hope he understands that all the accountability in the world is not going to rebuild broken trust.
Did you spot any other clues in this video?
And that video is weird, that he's basically talking about his own situation in that video. Weird.
Hey everybody, Dr. G here. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, personality disorder expert, and body language expert, and today we're going to be talking about the body language of narcissists. So today we're going to talk all about the body language you're going to see from narcissists and how to interpret it. So if you want to keep learning more about body language and narcissism, I highly recommend you like and subscribe because I talk about these subjects a lot. I want you to understand, before we talk about narcissists specifically, how body language works. This is super important to understand. Body language is unconscious and involuntary. Obviously, we can voluntarily control what we do, but the vast majority of body language that matters is not voluntary. It just happens on its own, and each time it happens, it's trying to fulfill some kind of need. Oftentimes, we try to calm ourselves with body language, like if I start rubbing my face or I start rubbing my neck.
It's a good definition of body language. So it's subconscious and it's trying to meet a need of ours when we do it. Very interesting.
Trying to soothe myself. Okay. If I stand, put my hands on my hips, I'm trying to take up a lot of space to show everybody how dominant I am. There's many things related to survival that are integrated into body language. And if you know how to spot those, you can understand what they are, and you can know how you should react to it. This is all based on the idea of what we call emotional leakage. In other words, that emotions that we experience are going to leak out in our body language. And so when you see somebody who furrows their brow, obviously that's anger. It's not like you think, I'm going to furrow my brow because I'm angry. It just happens because you feel anger. All of these things are going to happen just because that's what you think and feel. So if you're dealing with a narcissist, think about it this way. This is someone who is chronically grandiose. They want to take up as much space as possible. They want to show how dominant they are. And that's what we're going to see. So let's look at different parts of the body and different behaviors that narcissists are going to engage in order to create a dominant and grandiose atmosphere. One thing I want to be super clear about: don't overinterpret. These are basic ideas. I don't want you to say universally, you said this, therefore that's what it always means. I'm just telling you things you often see with people that are narcissists. So let's go from head to toe and talk about the different things that you're going to see narcissists engage in. The face is one that is very challenging to interpret sometimes because the face is easy to manipulate. Now, if you know what you're looking for, you can see involuntary sort of issues. But if we want somebody to think that we're happy, we're going to smile. Now, it's not going to come across as genuine if you're not feeling it. But this is something that we're going to see with narcissists, as we're going to see fake smiles, because they're going to be trying to manipulate and make you feel something. A real smile, we're going to see wrinkling around the eyebrows. But if you see somebody smile and there's none of that, then they're just trying to smile. When somebody crosses their arms and smiles like this, they may be feeling hostile. So when they smile and you say, why are you so angry? They'll go, oh, I'm not angry. I'm smiling. I feel fine. And it's not a real smile, and it's passive aggressive, and it's frustrating. Here's another one that's kind of interesting. Almost all emotions are what we call bilateral on the face. In other words, both sides are going to express it. So if I'm sad, you're going to see it on both sides. If I'm happy, you're going to see it on both sides. Contempt is the one exception. When someone feels contempt, it's seen on one side of the mouth. So if somebody, smiles with one side, they may be trying to fake a smile. But
So contempt is shown on one side of the mouth. That's one to pay attention to.
also, you're going to see contempt on one side of the face. So when you see a lot of one-sided facial gestures, then you're going to know oftentimes that means that they're feeling contempt. Claiming to feel one emotion and showing another is something that narcissists do all the time.
Interesting. So it's not just the mouth. It's the entire one side of the face shows contempt. And that would be something narcissists do all the time.
Because it creates confusion and it gives them deniability. They can say, no, I'm not feeling that. You're just imagining that. And that's a way of gaslighting people. Now, if you're with a narcissist who gets angry easily, you're going to see them flaring their nostrils a lot because we flare our nostrils in order to take in more oxygen. And when we're getting angry, our heart's pumping faster. We need more oxygen. And so if you're with someone who's hostile, you're going to see nostril flaring sometimes. Now, this is a subtle one. That's probably not one that's going to be as obvious as some of the later ones we're talking about, but that is something you'll see. Another one used often by narcissists is keeping a neutral look, because then you have to imagine how they're feeling. They don't want to let you know how they feel, so they'll keep even a neutral look. And that can be very uncomfortable. They'll try to make situations uncomfortable. So if you're sitting with someone who's a narcissist, let's say that it's like a boss at work or something, and they're keeping an extremely neutral expression that seems overdone, it could be a way to control that situation, to feel above you in that situation. It could be a way to make it so that you feel like you have to say something, or you have to engage, or that like you have to figure out how they're feeling. So keeping a neutral expression, while at its core doesn't sound like a bad thing, it can be used against people, and it can be used in a passive aggressive way. Let's talk a little bit about arms. Arms are used to defend ourselves. Okay. Now, one thing is that when someone's feeling open and genuine, they will leave this part of themselves open and unexposed, because this is really a place from a survival perspective that if someone attacks you here, not good. So when you're feeling defensive, oftentimes you cover this up. We also use our arms to take up space, to show how dominant we are. And this is something that we see with narcissists, is that we're going to see them putting their hands on their hips, doing things to take up as much expansive space as possible. So they engage in expansive types of behaviors because they want to show how big and how important they are. So they are going to take up as much room as possible. They'll spread their legs further apart when they're standing. They'll move their arms about. They'll try to take up as much room as possible to show how important they are and to sort of lay claim to some of that territory. Another one is finger pointing. Finger pointing, we innately do not like having people point their finger at us. I don't like somebody pointing their finger at me, and it's an involuntary reaction that we don't like that feeling. And that's something that narcissists will do. They will point at people. They'll use their finger because they're trying to belittle them. So finger pointing is another one that you may automatically have a negative reaction to, but it's one that narcissists may use a lot. There's something we call steepling, and this one is the one that is the bane of my existence. I think it's dumb. I don't like it, and I did a whole video on why you shouldn't do it. But let me show you what it is, and I'll explain it. It's doing this gesture right here. I'm sure you've seen politicians do it. I'm sure you've seen people do it. You may even know somebody who does it. Hopefully you don't do it yourself, and if you do, you should stop doing it. Anyway, what it does is this makes people seem like they are an authority. People do this in order to make themselves feel self-important and to feel powerful. What we've actually seen is that in court, doing this actually makes people believe you more. And that's great if you're in a few small positions. You're a CEO, you're an expert witness. One of these things, you can use that to make people think that you're more believable, but everybody else just comes across as pompous and annoying, and you just shouldn't do this.
And so to reiterate something Charlie was saying, he said that his mother was just like Livia Soprano. And if you have a narcissistic parent, or even a borderline parent, they condition you to associate the behaviors of a narcissist with love, which is why so many times what happens is you have a narcissistic parent, you wind up in a relationship with a narcissist as an adult. That's a big, big reason why that happens. Now, in terms of body language in general, being a pseudoscience, I wouldn't trust body language 100%, but it's one of those things where there's clues. But this is the thing about all of the social sciences, like the DSM, most of it, there's no blood tests for most of it. It's based on behaviors. It's based on studies. So it's really difficult. I mean, brain scans can be close to be like meaning something, but there's a lot of dispute on whether brain scans are even accurate or if they should even be admissible. For example, I don't even think they're admissible in court. So when it comes to social sciences, there's a lot still up in the air, and there's a lot that we don't know. We're still learning things. And that's why it's interesting to note that when you listen to licensed professionals, especially if they act like, oh, it's all settled the way it is. No, it's not. No, it's not. There can be a scientific consensus, but when there's social sciences, there's a lot of room for disagreements in there because it's almost impossible to prove one way or the other many of the different viewpoints.
I don't think anybody should do it. I think this is a pretentious gesture anyway. I personally don't like it because I think it's manipulative. But if you're with somebody who oftentimes does this during arguments, please don't let that affect you. Don't let that be something that makes you feel less than, because unconsciously sometimes we do. We go, well, that.
And this is something Rhodes said, and this is actually not completely true. There are identified genetic markers related to an individual's capacity for empathy and compassion. Kind of. When I spoke to George Simon about it, we don't know when those brain scans turned the way they did. Were they that way from birth, or are that way later in life? They really don't know. They can guess, but it's not a sure thing. People like to think it's a sure thing, but it's not.
person must really know what they're doing. They must be very smart if they're doing that. We do that unconsciously. We don't say that out loud. But steepling is one of the goofiest body language things that I see consistently. And there are plenty of people that I think we've all seen do it. Now, one of the interesting things is I talked about how sometimes narcissists will use their hands to draw attention to themselves. But when they're lying, they will use less hand gestures. In other words, if they are, and this is true of anybody, is that when we lie, we tend to use our hands less because we want to draw less attention to ourselves. We're trying to freeze and stay hidden. So using less hand gestures is very common for people that are lying and for narcissists when they want to manipulate. Something that narcissists may do to make you feel uncomfortable is to lean in towards you, to make you feel like your space is being invaded and make them feel dominant. Like if you're at a computer, they may lean over your shoulder. They may lean into you when you're in a situation where it obviously would be uncomfortable. They will invade your space, and it can feel weird and gross, and it's not necessarily something that most people like to tolerate. So if you're in a relationship with a narcissist, they may do this at times and then deny that they're doing it. Well, I just want to be close to you. I'm not trying to invade your space. But if it feels wrong to you or it feels like an invasion, that should tell you that you're trying to defend yourself. If somebody that we care about leans into us and puts their arm around us or leans in when they're talking to us, it may be a source of comfort for us. If it's someone who we feel is a threat, it's going to feel very uncomfortable. Or if it's during a conversation that's heated and they lean towards us, or if they're looking over your shoulder.
And that's the thing I would actually pay attention to. Like if you're on a date, someone's leaning in, generally it's a good sign. Someone's leaning back and away, not as much a good sign. It shows that they're not as comfortable a lot of times. But again, will it be black and white? No, and nothing will be black and white. But generally speaking, that's how it is.
That's going to be invading your space, and that's intentional. It's a way to intimidate. Something you may see narcissists also do is to spread their legs when sitting. Once again, trying to take up as much space as possible. Now, some people sit like that because they're comfortable. There's nothing inherently wrong with it, but there are times when people do it that's an attempt to take up space and an attempt to be dominant. So legs, when it comes to legs being spread out, standing up with your legs far apart, those are all signs of dominance. If you're having an argument with a narcissist, they may put their hands on their hips, spread their legs out, kind of like you see when you think of a police officer sometimes stands like that, which is part of their job. Their job is to be dominant. And so that type of behavior in a relationship feels very uncomfortable. When it's like a one-on-one interaction with somebody, or when it's with somebody who's a romantic partner, it feels inappropriate. When it's somebody who's in a position of authority, it's a little bit different. But it's still the same behavior, and it's still with the same purpose, which is to dominate and to feel dominant. So hopefully this helps you better understand body language a little bit. I've got so much more to share about body language. This is really just the tip of the iceberg. So I want you to like and subscribe if you're interested in finding out more, because I am going to keep releasing videos about body language. I'm going to start looking at body language in pop culture. And I really want to help everybody better understand the body language that we're seeing every single day. Last thing I want to say is that if you're in a challenging relationship and you think that it may be impacting you, you should take the quiz that I have below.
And that was interesting. Not that mind-blowing. The last one is Sam Vaknin did one. 1.1 million views. Old school Sam Vaknin too, by the way. Young Sam Vaknin. Look at young scrapping Sam Vaknin from 15 years ago.
My name is Sam Vaknin, and I'm the author of Malignant Self-Love, Narcissism Revisited. Abusers emit subtle, almost subliminal signals in their body language, but these are observable and discernible. Learn to read the abuser's body language, save yourself a world of trouble and of hurt. The first sign is a haughty, arrogant body language. The abuser adopts a physical posture which implies and exudes an air of superiority, seniority, hidden powers, mysteriousness, amused indifference. Though the abuser usually maintains sustained and piercing eye contact, he often refrains from physical proximity. He keeps a personal territory around him. Abusers take part in social interactions, even mere banter, but they do so condescendingly, from a position of supremacy and for magnanimity and largesse. Even when the abuser feigns gregariousness, he rarely mingles socially. He prefers to remain the observer or the lone wolf. The second sign is entitlement marker. Abusers immediately ask for special treatment. They don't want to wait their turn. They want to have a longer or shorter therapeutic session. They want to talk directly to authority figures and not to assistants or secretaries. They want to be granted special payment terms. They want to enjoy custom-tailored arrangements. This goes well with the abuser's alloplastic defenses, his tendency to shift responsibility to others or to the world at large for his own needs, failures, behavior, choices, mishaps, missteps. The sentence most beloved on abusers is, "Look what you made me do." The abuser is the one who vocally and demonstratively demands the undivided attention of the head waiter in a restaurant, or monopolizes the hostess, or latches on to celebrities in a party. The abuser reacts with rage and indignantly when denied his wishes, and when treated the same as others whom he always deems inferior. Abusers frequently and embarrassingly dress down service providers, such as cab drivers. The next sign is idealization followed by devaluation. Abusers instantly idealize or devalue their interlocutors. They flatter, adore, admire, and applaud the target in an embarrassingly exaggerated and profuse manner. Or, when rebuffed, they sulk, they abuse and humiliate her. Abusers are polite only in the presence of a potential would-be victim, a mate, a collaborator, in other words, a source of narcissistic supply. But they are unable to sustain even perfunctory civility and very fast deteriorate to barbs and thinly veiled hostility, to verbal or other violent displays of abuse, rage attacks, or cold detachment, or to sadistic humor. Then there is the membership posture. Abusers always try to belong, yet at the very same time the abuser maintains his stance as an outsider. The abuser seeks to be admired for his ability to integrate and ingratiate himself, but without investing the efforts which are commensurate with such undertaking. For instance, if the abuser talks to a psychologist or a therapist, the abuser first states emphatically that he never studied psychology. But then he proceeds to make seemingly effortless use of obscure professional terms, thus demonstrating that he mastered the discipline all the same. And this is supposed to prove that he is exceptionally intelligent or introspective. In other words, superior. In general, abusers always prefer show-off to substance. One of the most effective methods of exposing an abuser is by trying to delve deeper. The abuser is shallow. He is a pond pretending to be an ocean.
He uses that line in his book, Malignant Self-Love, Narcissism Revisited. The narcissist is a pond pretending to be an ocean because they're shallow. And notice, not that much talk about body language here yet.
He likes to think of himself as a Renaissance man, a jack of all trades, or a genius. Abusers never admit to ignorance or to failure.
Oh, that's true. Extremely rare for them to admit to ignorance or a failure. I missed a super chat here. To Thrive, thank you. Good evening, Shepherd and Black Sheep. Yes, good flock of black sheep here.
In any film. Yet typically, they are ignorant and they are losers. It is surprisingly easy to penetrate the gloss and the veneer of the abuser's self-proclaimed omniscience, success, wealth, and omnipotence. Abusers brag and boast They do so incessantly. An abuser's speech is peppered with I, my, myself, and mine. This is called pronoun density. Abusers describe themselves as intelligent or rich or modest or intuitive or creative, but always excessively, always implausibly, always extraordinarily so.
Pronoun density. I like that term.
The abuser's biography sounds unusually rich and complex. His achievements are incommensurate with his age, with his education, or with his renown. Yet his actual condition is evidently and demonstrably incompatible with his claims. Very often the abuser's lies or fantasies are easily discernible. He always name drops and appropriates other people's experiences and accomplishments as his own. Abusers use emotion-free language. They like to talk about themselves and only about themselves. If the abuser is not interested in others or in what they have to say, he shows it. He is never reciprocal. He acts disdainful, even angry, if he feels an intrusion on his precious time. In general, abusers are very impatient, easily bored, with strong attention deficits, unless and until they become the topic of discussion. One can dissect all aspects of the intimate life of the abuser, providing the discourse is not emotionally tinted. If asked to relate directly to his emotion, the abuser intellectualizes, rationalizes, speaks about himself in the third person and in a detached scientific tone, or composes a narrative with a fictitious character in it, suspiciously autobiographical. Most abusers get enraged when required to delve deeper into their motives, fears, hopes, wishes, and needs. They use violence to cover up their perceived weakness and sentimentality. They distance themselves from their own emotions and from their loved ones by alienating and hurting them. Finally, abusers are serious. They are dead serious about themselves. The abuser may possess a fabulous sense of humor, scathing and cynical, but rarely is he self-deprecating. The abuser regards himself as being on a constant mission, whose importance is cosmic and whose consequences are global. If the abuser is a scientist, he is always in the throes of revolutionizing science. If he's a journalist, he's in the middle of the greatest story ever. If he's an aspiring businessman, he's on the way to concluding the deal of the century. Woe betide those who doubt his grandiose fantasies and impossible schemes and claims. This self-misperception is not amenable to lightheadedness or self-effacement. The abuser is easily hurt and insulted. Even the most innocuous remark or act are interpreted by the abuser as belittling, intruding, or coercive slights and demands. The abuser's time is more valuable than other people's. Therefore, it cannot be wasted on unimportant matters such as social intercourse, family obligations, or household chores. Inevitably, the abuser feels constantly misunderstood and underestimated. Any suggested help, advice, or concerned inquiry are immediately cast by the abuser as intentional humiliation, implying that the abuser is in need of help and counsel and therefore imperfect. Any attempt to set an agenda is to the abuser an intimidating act of enslavement. In this sense, the abuser is both schizoid, avoids company, and paranoid. Abusers are sometimes sadistic, and they have inappropriate effect. In other words, they find the obnoxious, the heinous, the shocking funny, or even gratifying. They are sexually sadomasochistic or deviant or autoerotic. They like to taunt, to torment, and to hurt people's feelings. They do it sometimes humorously or with bursting honesty, but it's still sadistic. While some abusers are stable and conventional, others are antisocial, and their impulse control is flawed. They are very reckless, self-destructive, self-defeating, and just plain destructive. They engage in workaholism.
So this video about narcissistic body language is pretty scarce on talking about narcissistic body language. What do you know? He's just talking about narcissists and abusers in general.
alcoholism, drug abuse, pathological gambling, compulsory shopping, or reckless driving. Yet these, the lack of empathy, the aloofness, the disdain, the sense of entitlement, the restricted application of humor, the unequal treatment, the sadism, and the paranoia, do not render the abuser a social misfit. This is because the abuser mistreats only his closest, his nearest, and supposedly dearest. He abuses his spouse, his children, or more rarely colleagues, friends, and neighbors. To the rest of the world, those who don't know him intimately, the abuser appears to be composed, rational, and functioning. Abusers are very adept at casting a veil of secrecy, often with the active aid of their victims, over their dysfunction and misbehavior. They're great actors, and they succeed in deceiving the entire world, all people, all the time.
Well, that is that there in that video of narcissistic body language that didn't really talk about body language at all, for that matter. Yeah, it's probably what he was doing awake, because he is a narcissist. And I think they gave him some antisocial traits as well, if not full-blown antisocial personality disorder. And I heard in the documentary that he made that he was like basically toying with the person that was interviewing him. Of course, I've heard of HG Tutor Charlie. He's a friend of the channel. And I've interviewed him twice. I've spoken to HG twice. Once was a couple years ago, and once was maybe 6 months to 9 months ago, perhaps. Yeah, he didn't say anything about body language. There was a clickbait title, which goes to show you what? That really people don't know. There's not much specific to narcissist body language for the very most part. Some people will say the eyes, right? The eyes will turn black. Or I will say the narcissistic smirk. I think I could have given a better body language video. I would have said, okay, watch out for the sadistic smile. What's the sadistic smile? That's when they feel pleasure and they get enjoyment from other people's pain. Sadistic smile. And they will do this if they've embarrassed you in public, maybe. Maybe they use a dog whistle against you. A dog whistle is when they say or do something that only you can hear and only you can know the meaning of. And they do it because it's a covert way to abuse you. And they'll try to provoke you into a reaction in front of others to make you look crazy. And then the narcissist will say, see, look at what I have to deal with. Look at how crazy they are. And then they'll flash their sadistic smile. A narcissistic smirk, you'll probably see that after they do some Duper's Delight. Thank you, Tooth Thrive. Yeah, that narcissistic smirk, people have nightmares of the narcissistic smirk and the sadistic smile. It gets etched in people's memory. It's not good. My narc likes to puff up and be extra intimidating when he rages. Yep, I can see that. Max will poke his chest out somewhat. Coco, welcome to the channel, Coco. I mean, and it depends on what kind of narcissist they are too. If you're more of a grandiose type, yeah, you'll probably puff up your chest and bully and intimidate people into complying. And they'll give big emotional reactions where people around them, they know, I don't want to provoke this person into a reaction. I want to avoid their reaction. So let's just give them what they want. Let's just placate them and give them what they want. But that's exactly the wrong thing to do. And maybe that's sometimes what their parents did growing up. They cave. They cave to the temper tantrums. They cave to the big emotional reactions. And it tells the narcissistic person, yep, this is how I get what I want. I throw a temper tantrum. I rage. I act like a toddler. And it works. So I'm big on not letting those manipulation tactics work unless your safety is at play. If your safety is at stake, okay, yeah, then you do what you got to do to stay safe. But if not, do not reward them with getting what they want. And a lot of people just end up getting worn down, so they'll give up. They'll give up. Yeah, Tony Soprano would absolutely do that. And people around him would just get tired of like calling it out, right? They'd say, oh God, Tony's going to do this. Because he would get up in people's faces. He would rage. He would throw a lot of fits. Think about how he treated that dude at the Bada Bing. The way he treated the dude at the Bada Bing is how he wanted to treat AJ. But Carmela just wouldn't let him. So he took out his frustrations on the bouncer at the Bada Bing. Bent the knee. I mean, you didn't know what you didn't know. Now you know. I thought Tony Soprano was the first look at Narcissist when we are not around. I mean, you could make an argument. He's got antisocial personality disorder too. He's a comorbid narcissist, antisocial. Narcissistic psychopath, I have said before. David J. Lieberman. I've heard of that, Turtle. I've heard of that. AJ was definitely the scapegoat. Meadow was the golden child. Carmela was an enabler / she has narcissistic traits too, Carmela. She was good with everything. The only thing she didn't like was Tony cheating on her. Everything else, she liked the spoils of being the first lady of the mob world. She liked the spoils of it. She liked the image. She liked all of that. The only thing she didn't like was the cheating. And so when Janice was getting married, Carmela made a point to tell her, oh, yeah, you'll see. You'll see. Richie will cheat. Richie will do this, that, and the other, and it'll suck for you. So she was trying to rain on her parade a little bit. But little did Carmela know, Janice got the best of Richie. Janice got the best of Richie. I mean, her actions accepted it, right? She acted like she wasn't into it. She acted mad about it. But at the end of the day, I mean, she left once, briefly, right? She left briefly once. She got with that principal. But then she went right back. She went right back. And that one psychiatrist told her all about herself. She said, you are an accomplice, even. An enabler and an accomplice to what Tony is doing. So he said, take your children, what's left of them, and leave them. And I'm telling you this now so that you can never say, no one didn't tell me. You can never say you were never told. So it's a good scene. Certainly a good scene, that psychiatrist. Yeah, she did love the money, that's for sure. And he was right. That was a profound scene because it also showed how little progress Dr. Melfi was making with Tony. Dr. Melfi, in her sessions with Tony, they were just going nowhere. Like she was just enabling him, basically. She tried to fire him once, and then she caved. And she also liked the fact that Tony would have whacked the dude that S8'd her. She did like that too. So there was something visceral in Dr. Melfi that her rational mind didn't like it, but viscerally, there was something she was a little bit attracted to with Tony. Sometimes attraction is not a choice. Here's the scene with Carmen Sopranos, moralized by her Jewish therapist. Yeah, that's exactly the scene. And that was a good episode. That was certainly a good episode. Tony tries to seduce her, and that would have been the end. He manipulated Melfi. Of course he did. Yes, he did. But Melfi rejected him, right? And Tony got very mad. He's trying to give her flowers. Oh, I wasn't seeing you for a while. We should be able to date now. Yeah, and that's just not how it works. Montana, welcome. We went over some narcissistic body language stuff today. But in reality, none of them really went into that much depth with narcissistic body language. I didn't learn that much. But tomorrow night, we'll be back to the old current events. Because apparently with the older videos here, narcissistic body language stuff, not as entertaining for the people. Not as entertaining. People like their up-to-date current events. People like that. People don't like the old school stuff. So that's the thing now. So now I've done some lives that have been pretty successful talking about current events. And Erica Kirk and Candace Owens. So I'm like feeling it out here, what works and what doesn't work. Yep, we went over some of that, Charlie. We went over, they did 2 interviews where they broke down Rob and Nick, and we broke down 2 of them, which was cool. They do well. I like the guy in the bottom right of the behavior panel. I forget his name, but he's pretty good. Is Vaknin not a very recommended source of info? I mean, some people basically worship him as the #1 expert in the entire space. But here's the thing about him. He's a professor and he has a PhD in philosophy. He has no credentials in the mental health field. Now, does that mean he's wrong about what he says? No. But that's why you won't see people like Dr. Romney, Dr. Eatonson, Dr. Salerno. You're not going to hear them cite Sam Vaknin for a reason, because he's not a licensed professional. Like, he's able to somehow teach psychology only because of where he is. I think he's in Eastern Europe or maybe even Russia. But anyway, I mean, I've learned a lot from Sam Vaknin. I choose to learn from everybody. But some people think, no, he's definitely the #1 person. There's no one else out there that even comes close. But he would disagree a little bit with Dr. Salerno. He would disagree with others as well. I know Dr. Eatonson disagrees with him for different reasons. So amongst the experts, there are certainly a lot of different opinions out there. And so when it comes to genetic versus trauma, there's certainly different opinions about that. There's certainly different opinions about the genetic markers and how indicating they are, how accurate they are. We really don't know. There's a lot of things we don't know. Which book, Turtle? Nilla Ice. Heather, welcome. I like that expression, awake now. Observe, don't absorb. I like it. Especially, well, that's why I think we take what we like and we leave the rest. I think that's a good way to put it, right? And I've gone over a couple things from Ross Rosenberg. Some other people I've interviewed, they like him too. How's your new year been so far, Heather? Today we talked about narcissists and body language. I don't really have anything else to go over today. I wanted to do an experiment to see what people would think of this. Thank you, Songbits. Welcome. Speaking of Songbits, I haven't seen Jimmy in the chat. Yeah, we can try, Charlie. But the numbers will dictate also what I do as well. Because this stream here didn't do nearly as well as the ones when I do current events. So I gotta strike the balance, you know? And I definitely still plan on doing interviews with the narcissist experts. Dr. Salerno will be back on the show. Dr. Simon. I'm going to try to get Dr. Karen Mitchell. I'm in contact with the guy, Mike King, author of Wolves in Sheep's Clothing. All of them. Dr. Denise from Instagram, if you know her. All these people are going to come on the channel. They'll be recorded discussions, though. And you guys got to let me know, too, if you want me to include other people in the lives sometimes, too. It might not go as well if I'm going over videos. Like, it doesn't really go as well to have a guest there for that. But we'll see. Does Dr. Carter do interviews anymore? You know, he might, Crazy. I think he has done a couple interviews. He just doesn't really make any new videos for his channel, is what I've seen. But I like Dr. Carter. He's got a good energy. He's got a good energy, very welcoming, very safe. I don't have any bad things to say about Dr. Carter. Have you ever heard of the channel I Don't Belong Here? I think so. I think so. Yeah, I mean, Dr. Carter's great. Les Carter's great. He gets the Wizard of Radical Self-Respect's thumbs up. The Shepherd of Black Sheep gives him a thumbs up. Let the comments be the discussion with guests so we can focus on the conversation. The comments be the discussion with guests. What do you mean by that, no doubt, though? So, let the comments be the discussion with guests so we can focus on the conversation. Okay, so I mean just me talking to the other person and the commenters talking amongst themselves? Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's okay. And that's how I've been doing it. In the beginning, I used to do the guests live, and then I stopped doing that. And I haven't done it that way for 6 to 9 months now, at least, if not a year. So those are just recorded videos. But I like doing the live streams, especially about current events, because I like talking about the things that are new. I like applying the things that I know to things that are going on, which is pretty cool. Yeah, Dr. Carter's great, Kat. Not a bad word to say about him. Thank you, Heather. Yes, the mighty YouTube algorithm can determine who finds who, right? Now, I get you, no doubt. I get you. She's my girl, too. She did some stuff on Reinhardt, and she has good analysis. I love it. I love it. But all right, guys. I think we're going to wrap this one up here because I don't got much else to say today. Yes, Sarah, he is the one with Gus. Gus is the dog. Very famous dog, that Gus. Christian's got a famous cat. Dr. Salerno's got a famous cat. And Dr. Carter got the famous dog, Gus. So you got a good memory. But tomorrow we will be back with a current events talk, whether it's Erica Kirk, Candace Owens, Nick Reiner, or maybe another case. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. And Happy New Year to you too, Awake, and Songbits, and Sarah, and Nodat, and Kat, everyone who's here. Heather, you as well. Melissa, does the narcissist know they are a narcissist? I think they can often know they're a little bit different. They know what they're doing. They'll never admit it. They'll never admit they're a narcissist. But usually they know something's up. But they'll just blame other people. They'll blame other people. They think they're always right, so they're not going to blame themselves 9 times out of 10. Yeah, it's a weird week, right? Because of New Year's and whatever. It changed everything. You as well, my dad. And Christy. Yeah, I mean, there are some self-aware narcissists out there. That's a thing. Yeah, that makes sense, Awake. I would say. Ish. Ish is a good way to put it. Some doctor I watched said some can change from narcissism, but they have to want it and work hard. I would have to believe any change. I would have to see it to believe it. Happy New Year to you as well, To Thrive. Thanks for all the super chats as always. Yeah, and some of them will admit. Danielle from hell, just getting here now. You didn't miss much today, Danielle. We went over some videos about narcissistic body language, but they didn't really go over that much body language, honestly. The titles were misleading. So they did a little bit, but not that much. But all right, guys. Yep, hey, say hi, Jared. It'll be a high and by today, Danielle. High and by. So with that, hope your first day of 2026 was great. And I'll be back at it again tomorrow. Congratulations, Melissa. I'm proud of you. It's always good to get the heck out of there for sure. And you got it, Ann. And you got it, Ellie. And Montana. Everyone, my dad. Charlie. Till next time. It's okay, Danielle. You'll be back tomorrow.